Okay, so we're talking about scientific notation. And scientific notation gives us a compact way to write very small and very large numbers. So scientific notation. Okay, scientific notation. And if you look, you'll see a word in here that looks familiar, and that's science. Scientific notation and science. And the reason why you see that word in there is because scientific notation is something that is used a lot in science. So it's kind of one of those points where math and science really cross over. Scientists use scientific notation, again, to talk about very small and very large numbers. So when we're talking about something like the distance from the Earth to the Sun or the Earth to another planet, they would use scientific notation. Or when they're talking about the size of an atom, they're so small we can never see them, but they would measure those by using scientific notation. So I'm going to write a few problems down, and we're going to talk about what makes it scientific notation, or maybe what doesn't make it scientific notation. I'll give you some examples and then some non-examples. So 5.4 times 10 to the second is my first example, and 12.3 times 10 to the fourth is my second example. So if you look at this first one, 5.4 times 10 to the second, the first thing you're going to ask yourself is, does the first number, this part right here that I'm circling in green, is it between 1 and 10? See if I can make little notes over here. Between 1 and 10? Is it between 1 and 10? Well, 5.4 does fall between 1 and 10, so yes. The next thing you need to ask yourself is there a multiplication sign? Well, yes, indeed there is. The next thing you're always going to see in scientific notation is this base of 10. Remember from talking about exponents that the base is always the big number. So yes, there is a base of 10. And then the next thing you're going to ask, is there an exponent? And it doesn't matter if that exponent is positive or negative, but if it's positive or negative and there's an exponent, then yes, it is scientific notation. So the first thing we asked ourselves is this first number between 1 and 10? The second thing we asked ourselves is, does it multiply? The next thing we asked ourselves is there a base of 10? And then the final thing we asked ourselves is there an exponent? So those are the four things you're going to ask yourself every time we talk about scientific notation on every problem, because what's going to happen is they're going to try to trick us. And they're going to give us a problem like this, and they're going to say, put it in standard form. Standard form is just the regular way of putting it as a number, but the problem is it's not in scientific notation, so it's not that easy just to switch it over to standard form. So let's look at this. Look at this for a minute. Ask yourself these questions and try to determine why this is not scientific notation. Okay, that's right. It's not scientific notation because the first number is not between 1 and 10. 12.3 falls outside of 1 and 10. So no, you can say right off the bat, you don't even need to keep going. This is not scientific notation. So again, the very first thing I want you to do every single time is ask yourself, is this scientific notation? Because you'll see on our quizzes, some of the questions will simply ask you. It'll give you a problem like this and say, is it scientific notation? And you're going to need to be able to say yes or no. Or here, is this scientific notation? Yes or no.